you think about how it all plays together, all these mood disorders, especially in COVID life, you have isolation, uncertainty, fear, stress, anxiety, depression, and worry. It's all part of humanity. And if you don't balance the autonomic nervous system, you will have a proclivity to have more intense depressive episodes or anxious episodes when the world is more anxious. That's just how it works. So it's really about creating control and be able to liberate yourself from the sabotage of this reptilian midbrain.
Welcome to the Spartan Up podcast with Joe De Sena, founder and CEO of Spartan Race.
We are talking about overcoming obstacles. The same way we teach people to get over obstacles on the course, we will teach you here on the Spartan Up podcast to get over obstacles in your mind.
Jim Poole is the chairman and president of Solace Lifesciences. In 2015, they were granted the world's only patent for systems and methods for balancing and maintaining the health of the human autonomic nervous system. Today, he and Joe explain to you the mechanisms of stress and what it does in your mind and in your body. This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by DUROLANE, a single injection that may provide up to 6 months relief from osteoarthritis knee pain. Risks can include general knee pain and pain at the injection site. You can see full prescribing information at DUROLANE.com.
All right, Joe De Sena here, founder and CEO of Spartan, and I've got Jim Poole on the Spartan Up podcast. Jim, you're supposedly, I don't know yet, we just met 5 seconds ago, supposedly like a stress, sleep super expert. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, you know what? It probably is, and it's not out of intellectual curiosity or intellectual horsepower. It's really out of the naivety and ignorance humans have of stress. So I'm filling a vacuum, basically.
How does one become a stress sleep expert? Do you just put yourself under enormous amounts of stress? Because I've done that my whole life.
Oh, that's called a victim of stress, not an expert in stress. I think, Joe, it's simple. You take over a neuroscience company that has invented the only patented system in the world for balancing stress. So you learn a lot as you... From 2009 to 2017, I lectured all over the world to doctors, neuroscientists, oncologists, cardiovascular surgeons on the anatomy and physiology of the stress response, the autonomic nervous system, the need to balance the autonomic nervous system, stress in a preoperative, perioperative, postoperative healing mechanism. So there's a lot that you need to learn, and that expertise is just founded on years of evolution, learning, growing, and really understanding how little we know about what it means to be a human. Because we all feel stress, but very few of us understand the mechanisms of it and how to manage it.
Yeah, so let's dive in. Like what you've lectured all over the world. We've all got stress. It's pretty common. I'm stressed out right now because somebody's making noise in my kitchen right next to me, right? You're stressed out because you couldn't get AT&T's phone to work before this call. What do we do about it? You make it sound like in the old days, you remember, a lot of folks won't remember, there were like these equalizers with your stereo that you had, right? And you could adjust and balance things. Is that what you got or you suggest?
Yeah, I mean, well, let's start at this top. Stress, someone's in your kitchen making noise. You have a central nervous system. Your central nervous system is governing you for fear, safety, security, and really keeping you alive, right? Its number one function of the central nervous system is self-preservation and keep you alive. But it has all 5 senses and your intuition. Great. When it feels something that's not right or not in balance, it activates the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system is the fight or flight response. It's the sympathetic side. It's the parasympathetic side. But it's also fear, stress, anxiety, depression, and worry. So when the central nervous system feels out of balance, it pings the amygdala, which is an ancient part of the midbrain, activates all these catecholamines and all this stuff to present to you agitation, impatience, worry, fear, etc. The challenge here, Joe, is simple. The reptilian side of our brain, the midbrain, composed of the amygdala, the hypothalamus, and the HPA axis, is 40 million years evolved. Think about that. Think about how much you've learned just in the last year with COVID. Think about how your brain and your central nervous system, the neuronal networking, is continuously improving your thought process and your ability to adapt. Think about 40 million years evolved. Then take a look at the frontal cortex and prefrontal cortex, which separates us from primates. That area of our brain is 4 million years evolved. That area is executive functioning, left brain logic, personality, character. That's human. So we have to fight a 36 million year head start by this neuronal network and circuitry in our brain. That's the challenge of being human. So we look at things and something simple sets us off. It's not that the person making noise in the kitchen is that demonstrative. It's not. It's the fact is you already were at a place where you were a little agitated or impatient for other reasons, and that was the catalyst. That's the challenge. So as humans, and what we've seen through the evolutionary process, our frontal cortex, prefrontal cortex has not been able to kind of evolve with the speed to showcase this ability to control ourselves and not have the reptilian side of our brain activate and sabotage us. That's the challenge. And it's really about resource allocation. You're an endurance athlete. You understand the value of oxygen-rich red blood cells. That's how you created endurance. That's how you push through stuff. That's how you reduce lactic acid, inflammation, and allowed your body to do things that, didn't seem humanly possible, right? So when you are in a stress response, you don't have resources in the form of oxygen-rich red blood going to your prefrontal cortex. So you're not thinking clearly. You're then more apt to be suspect and sabotaged by this reptilian side of our brain.
Don't act like a reptile is the message.
Don't act like a reptile. You're human. Understand that, hey, these are little things, big picture. Create access through breathing or through mindfulness or yoga, tai chi, whatever it is that you can do. If you don't find balance of the autonomic nervous system, you will constantly be reactive to stress and not responsive. That is the key.
You can't think clearly. My son right now, he's wrestling this weekend. Both boys are wrestling this weekend. The girls are playing.
I'm a wrestler. I wrestled for 20 years. So did my identical twin brother. I love wrestling. One of the best sports you could do to become a confident individual, accountable, ass-kicking machine.
I love it. Where'd you wrestle?
I wrestled in upstate New York.
Well, that's a hotbed. It's kind of like, in the mountains of Russia, they've got a lot of gold medals coming out of there. Well, upstate New York seems to be like
upstate New York, Section 4. Trust me, it was amazing. Loved it. Grew up wrestling. So Pennsylvania and New York are two of the hotbeds.
So you get it then. You get the pressure and the stress that I was just going to describe my two boys with this weekend. One of them's cutting weight. He's 6 pounds over. Today's Wednesday. He's weighing in Friday night. He's a nervous wreck. He was stressed out going to school. It's affecting his thinking. And what you're saying is that happens to us no matter if we're a mom, an executive, a Marine, whatever. We've got these outside stresses that aren't even real stresses, right? It's not like there's a lion breathing down his neck, chasing him to the bedroom every day, right? He's just got to cut a few pounds of weight. But our brain doesn't know that it's not a lion.
Bingo. Your brain, your central nervous system has no filter. This is the etiology of phobias. Think about a phobia. It doesn't make sense. It's irrational. A spider. How many species of spiders on Earth can hurt you? What, 5? And you look at a spider, it's 1/1,000,000th your size, and it creates this panic response. It doesn't make sense. You're absolutely right. The central nervous system has no filter to understand perceived threat, fear, or real threat and fear. But the physiology is exactly the same. When people say, well, your stress is greater than mine, that shows a level of naivety. They don't understand the body. The stress is the same response. It's the central nervous system, pings the amygdala. Amygdala fires to the HPA axis, adrenaline, catecholamines, all the blood flow goes to the visceral organs. Blood leaves your frontal cortex. You can't think straight. It's all the same response. It doesn't matter what the trigger is. So your son, the advice I give your son is, and this, I feel, I'm 52 years old. In 1985, I sucked 39 pounds. From November 19th, my birthday, football season ends, and you have a month. For your son, the key is breathe, focus, do not allow fear to take over, because you start thinking through things and you start defeating yourself before you even get on the mat. If he can stay focused and calm and allow his training to activate. I'm the best wrestler when I'm not thinking about your counter move. Just my body knows what to do. You're trained. That's the key.
You just gave me a big idea. This company, created glasses, kind of like Google glasses, that give you information. You could feed information to glasses. So you're looking at the outside world, just like a pair of glasses for those of you listening that I'm throwing on, right? But I'm getting little messages in there. And so maybe you and I could work with this company, and when you look at the spider, it says no threat, and then you can calm down, right?
Yeah, like the Terminator.
Yeah, right? Like, but really, that's where the world's going, I would think.
Well, any way to augment and change the perception of the brain and ability to control the autonomic nervous system is a winner. Absolutely.
Yeah, because I like what you're saying. Basically, this amygdala, this ancient old hardware that we have in our head, it's just not made for the modern world. Are you seeing? And so we have to be smart enough to inform this ancient hardware. That's what you're saying.
Well,
right?
You have to oxygenate key areas of the brain. It's all about the autonomic nervous system. People don't know what that means. They know the stress response. They know rest and digest really a couple times in their life. About an hour after your Thanksgiving dinner, when your body's engorged with food and tryptophan, etc., and you have no blood flow to your brain, it's all digesting. It's the only time you feel like apathetic to the world. You have no cares. That's parasympathetic dominance. People who do transcendental meditation are good at it, understand what that feels like. People who do yoga, tai chi, and stretching or deep breathing, like Wim Hof breathing's method, great. That's the beauty of balance in the autonomic nervous system. That's the key. And nothing is acute. The stress response, once fear grips you, it's go time. And the reason that it is that there's no neurons that fire to the frontal cortex. As soon as you feel a threat, your amygdala activates and just sucks all the resources out. So you have to come to a place where you take in the stress, and with oxygen-rich red blood cells to this area of the brain, you get to respond to it at your discretion, in control. You don't see, we work with monks. We've been working with monks for 6 years. I don't go to an ashram and see monks beating the shit out of each other. It's just, they're not stressed. Why is that? They still have stress. They're still human. They still live a life of being a human. They're able to respond because they have resources to this area of the brain that helps them override the sabotage. Think about in your life. I don't know how old you are, but we've all been to places where we did not act in character. We did things and we exploded and did stupid stuff, and we're like, why did I act like that? And we almost become filled with shame and judgment. There is no shame and judgment. You simply acted the way your body is designed to survive. That's just the way it is. And if you think about how it all plays together, all these mood disorders, especially in COVID life, you have isolation, uncertainty, fear, stress, anxiety, depression, and worry. It's all part of humanity. And if you don't balance the autonomic nervous system, you will have a proclivity to have more intense depressive episodes or anxious episodes when the world is more anxious. That's just how it works. So it's really about creating control and be able to liberate yourself from the sabotage of this reptilian midbrain.
And you must agree. I mean, one of our messages to the world, and I know this is for myself and my family, waking up every morning, drinking a bunch of water, hydrating, working out like a maniac so I get a sweat on every day, going to bed early. Like, there's a couple of basic tactical moves you could make on a daily basis to set you up for success.
There's no doubt. Sleep is paramount. It's funny because you said earlier, hey, you're an expert in stress. It's not that I'm the only person out there thinking about this. It's just that humans have a couple blind spots. One blind spot is we seem not to be able to comprehend and understand intangible. If I can't see it, touch it, smell it, look at it, I can't understand it. Stress is here. We see what it does. In the literature, in the medical community, 95 to 98% of all disease is created by stress.
We'll be right back to this interview, but first a message from today's sponsor, DUROLANE. You know that knee pain can really slow you down. Sometimes that knee pain is due to osteoarthritis, a disease that affects some 14 million Americans. Learn about osteoarthritis knee pain and how to alleviate it at oakneepainrelief.com. You'll find information there about non-surgical, non-opioid treatments for osteoarthritis knee pain that may help delay the need for knee surgery. One treatment you'll find there is DUROLANE, a single injection that may provide up to 6 months of relief
from osteoarthritis knee pain. It's indicated for the treatment of mild to moderate osteoarthritis knee pain when conservative treatments have not worked. Risks can include general knee pain and pain at the injection site. Full prescribing information is at DUROLANE.com. Spartans say no to limits. You can learn more at oakneepainrelief.com. That's oakneepainrelief.com. All right, back to the interview.
In the literature, in the medical community, 95 to 98% of all disease is created by stress. Yet we don't see it. So the sleep science, think about this. Science has been around for forever. Sleep science is like 27 years old. Yet sleep is the most important element to health. Why is that? Because in sleep, through the sleep architecture, specifically the second stage of sleep, your brainwave is in theta brainwave function, which is 7 hertz to 4 hertz just above deep sleep. And this is the time where your cells clean their toxins, do their cellular maintenance, and your mitochondria is restored. So cell biology is about the cell understanding what its role is. Life is about communication. Each cell in your body has a role and a function to do. Sleep is paramount. Exercise is amazing. Nutrition is important. Sleep is the pillar that all health builds upon. Yet, Joe, how many people do you know sleep well? Your kids are kids. They're not sleeping well. They're hormonally dysregulated at puberty, and it becomes crazy. They don't have circadian rhythm, right? You and I can't go to bed at 10 o'clock at night, wake up at 5 during the week, and then sleep until noon on a Saturday. But your kids can. They're hormonally dysregulated. So you're living in a house of stress, you know, the fear of failure on the wrestling side, but you're also hormonally dysregulated because you're working, you know, with kids that are going through puberty. It's a mess. I can see why you're stressed out.
But so we agree. There's some basic tactical moves you could make, and then there's some responses you should have, like the monks, and to be able to calm yourself down and ascertain whether it's a spider or a lion. Is it a real threat or bullshit? Most of the stuff in our life is bullshit. What do you do? Is it a biohack? What do you have that's making it easier on folks to deal with stress?
NewCalm is a technology. It's external, and it was born out of a need for a quantum physicist, naturopath, neuroscientist in Texas, whose client portfolio dealt with trauma comorbid with addiction. So the hardest profile of humanity on the 7 diagnosable anxiety disorders for a human is PTSD, comorbid with addiction. Okay? So he has a clinical practice for 40 years, serving thousands and thousands of military veterans and female abuse, sexual victims, and really bad things. And so the whole premise was, let me build something that builds a baseline therapeutic that allows the body to heal. Your body wants to be in balance. Your kid's body wants to be in balance. It's their monkey mind that's overriding the body's natural homeostasis and balance. Okay, so this technology took about 20 years to invent, uses biochemistry and physics to simply impose its will and slow down your brainwave function into that sweet spot that I mentioned, theta. Much like caffeine accelerates your brainwave function and allows you more rapid fire, more intellect, more cognitive capability, NewCalm simply slows down your brain. It says, hey, let's go to this sweet spot of healing that's commensurate with being a monk without having to live in an ashram.
So what do? I attach it to my nose, or what is this thing?
In 2009, we had a very complicated Class 3 medical device. It was 4 components. It was FDA, Health Canada, NSS certified for sport, approved by the military. It was also $6,000. One of the reasons the world hasn't heard about our tech is it was expensive, right? So we sold to doctors from 2009 to 2016 and now moved to consumers. But in 2016, Joe, we started seeing that consumers were spending $6,000 online buying our product. What does that tell you? There's a lot of demand for a product that's clinically proven, but it's expensive. So 4.5 years ago, we worked with our scientists to create and invent a pathway to bring to the market. So the only reason that we're probably on this podcast today is, guess what? It's not a $6,000 Class 3 medical device anymore. It's a $40 a month monthly subscription, and it's easy to use. So you would have a disc. The disc goes on your left wrist. The disc is the biochemistry signaling of NewCalm. This disc is simply interrupting the adrenal cortex and slowing down adrenaline, allowing your monkey mind to slow down a little bit. Then you have an eye mask. We're visually stimulated by light. This relaxes your visual stimulation. Then you have the key to New Calm. You're going to listen to nice music. Great. Under the music is over $6 million of patented physics, mathematics, and algorithms. A huge cornucopia of math tricking your brain. So you mentioned earlier glasses. The glasses had a statement. The statement's brought into the visual cortex. Our brain, our cerebral cortex is a lot visual cortex, and it transmits that signal. We're using the ears to present your brain with a pattern and simply slow you down. To give you an example of the complexity of the physics, a typical song is about 5 megabytes, 7 megabytes. One New Calm track is over 1 gigabyte of information. So you hear music, you can't hear what we're doing. The first few minutes, you're lying down, you're in your bed, your mind's wandering, you're thinking about your kids, you're hoping that they don't worry, you're hoping that fear doesn't, for your kids. You really grabbed my heart there, because I wish I had New Calm when I was wrestling. The fear and the cortisol and the adrenaline is going to create lactic acid and inflammation before they even get on the mat. We've got to get to a place where they just mentally absolve themselves of that and are in a place of conscious relaxation, and let them do what they're going to do. The best wrestlers that they're going to see are always relaxed. Even on the mat, there's a relaxed flow to them. They're in flow. That's what they need to be. So New Calm simply says, hey, we don't care who you are, what you're doing. Find a comfortable place. We tell people New Calm anytime in the morning till about 7 o'clock at night. You put a disc on your wrist, eye mask, you choose a track. There's a bunch of tracks on the app, and you simply get into this place. It's almost like that movie Cocoon. Remember those old people were staying alive for years? Well, guess what? In reality, if you balance the autonomic nervous system, what does that do? It liberates you from the sabotage of the autonomic nervous system. It reduces inflammation. It increases resilience. It builds your immune strength. So 11 and a half years of New Calm, I'm 52 years old. I'm healthier than I was at 40 years old. And I don't do, I exercise and I eat well, and I got a 91 sleep score last night. I sleep well. But I live a crazy life. There's a lot of stress. I run a global neuroscience company. Okay. But I manage my stress and I hydrate. Those are the two elements for me. If I balance my autonomic nervous system, that's kind of the pinnacle of good health. So that's what this does. This technology does many benefits, right? You might seek different benefit than I seek. We work with the United States military. We work with special forces. We work with professional athletes. We work with pilots. We work with people dying of cancer. We work with people with Parkinson's and ALS. Everybody has a different reason to bring mindfulness or technology into their life. And the benefit is different for them. But in reality, we're all human. So all we're doing is coming in with advanced technology and saying, hey, we're going to suspend you in this healing spot. The research we did at NASA and Harvard showcased that 20 minutes of New Calm is equivalent to 2 hours of restorative sleep.
I want you to send me one, overnight me one if you can. I want to have, if my oldest son could try it. Would you, if you were a wrestler, would you wear it right before the match? Would you wear it the morning of? When would you wear it?
Right before, no, because we're putting him in this state of really deep relaxation, recovery, and restoration. Morning of, absolutely. When is the tournament?
Tournament is Saturday at noon.
What you'll do is you'll get the product. Your son's going to New Calm a couple days in a row. It's not magic. It's not a miracle. It's neuroscience. It's going to take us a while to resolve the built-up stress. But day of, he'll do it in the morning, and that's it. Good to go.
How long you do it for? 20 minutes?
No, 20 minutes is the minimum for any physiological benefit. It all varies. It's really quite fascinating. The technology is the same. We're doing the same to every human being on Earth. It's really variable to your stress, your nutrition, your sleep that day. So some days you might New Calm for 32 minutes. Some days it might be 45 minutes. Your son, has got a lot of built up stress, and all we're doing is coming in and unplugging that stress valve. It might be 30, 40, 50 minutes the first time, and then maybe 30 minutes the second day. It's amazing how quickly it balances the autonomic nervous system. So 30, 40 minutes.
Not that I don't want people to try the product, but if you didn't have access to the product, if you couldn't afford $40 a month, I'm sorry I sound like a late night commercial here, and somebody wanted to emulate this in real life the best they could. Put a hot towel on their head, wrap their wrist with a rope. What would you do in without it?
You go live in an ashram with monks and meditate for 20 years. It's really quite.
I mean, well, the reason I ask it is for me, I love to do something big physically, and then what happens is I'll hit the living room floor, and I probably feel like I would if I had Newcom on. Like, you know what I mean? Like I do something really hard, really exhausting, and then it's like, boom, I'm just relaxed. I feel fantastic.
It's a little more complicated than that, and I like what you're thinking, but you're in a place of exhaustion. You're not in a place of cellular restoration and recovery.
Got it.
To get into that place, it's almost like the twilight zone. So think about you worked out Saturday afternoon, between 12 and 4, your natural biorhythm wants to take a nap, and you start dozing off on your couch, and your mind goes to this weird place like a twilight zone. That's where we take you. That twilight zone is the healing zone. It's hard to articulate, but it's like lucid dreaming or just weird stuff. But your body feels amazingly heavy because we've liberated you from adrenaline. When you are exhausted, your body's not healing. Your brainwave function is probably at like 12 hertz on the low end of beta, but you're not in the healing zone. You might be flirting with alpha. Theta is literally, think about this technology in the neuroscience. It's like David Copperfield. Instead of levitating your body, we're levitating your brainwave function just above sleep. There's one sweet spot for human restoration on a cellular level, and that's theta brainwave. So,
all right, I'm in. By the way, I was just at the Olympic trials. You're going to love this. At Cornell University, we have a Spartan Combat Center where we support some of the best wrestlers in the world. And we just went to the Olympic trials last weekend, and one of our athletes just made it in, Kyle Dake. I don't know if you followed.
Yeah, I watched a semifinal match.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Congratulations.
That's our guy. And as well as Yanni Dakamahalis and Vito. Those are all our guys.
That's amazing. Kyle's amazing. And you can feel his presence and he's relaxed out there. He's fluid as it gets.
Yeah.
So he's doing it naturally. But yeah, no, Newcomb is it's a game changer for the athlete. You know, we've been working with the Chicago Blackhawks. They were our longest standing team that we worked with since 2011. In 2013-15, they won the Stanley Cup, and their trainer, Mike Gapsky, who's 34 years trainer, tape and gauze guy, really salt of the earth, awesome gentleman, said, hey, without this, we wouldn't have won the Stanley Cup. And that's on record. And you're like, that's a huge endorsement. What are you talking about? He said, it's simple. Our players are skilled players. The battle of attrition in the Stanley Cup playoffs, you're playing the same team 7 times, you're traveling, you know each other, there's goon squads, there's injury. This technology allowed them to heal, get them on the ice. If they're not on the ice, they can't help contribute. But furthermore, it cleaned the slate. So they're not meditators, they're kids. But it cleaned the slate and allowed them, if they had a bad game the night before, we're starting from scratch. So same thing in the UFC. We work with a lot of elite UFC fighters, several world champions, and one of the issues with the UFC is they gas out in the locker room before they go in the cage because of fear or adrenaline or whatever that is. So if they don't knock out their opponent in the first few minutes at lactic acid, they're done, right? You see it. You see these incredibly well-conditioned athletes fatigue in the second round. You're like, no, all that is the stress response taking over. So that's amazing. Congratulations on the wrestling piece.
All right, so I gotta get one of these. I'm super pumped. And for those of you that can't afford the machine, or you just don't believe Jim, you definitely have to figure out what's a spider, what's a tiger. Do some deep breaths. Consider moving to the monastery for 20 years if you have to. Cold showers help, right? We didn't talk about cold showers help. Not eating before bed helps. Not flipping out over stupid shit helps. That's a wrap.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Spartan Up Podcast. Spartan Up is your partner in resilience for mind, body, and spirit. We're here 3 days every week. Tuesdays, you can find Joe De Sena, founder and CEO of Spartan, interviewing biohackers, business leaders, authors, and athletes. Thursdays and Saturdays, catch episodes from our DECA, Endurance, Trail, Combat, and La Ruta series. Do you know someone who needs a little nudge? Maybe they could use some motivation, tactics to be stronger, healthier, happier, more successful? Tell them about our show. And if you're watching on YouTube, leave us a comment. We want to know who's watching and who's listening. Thanks. See you next time. This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by DUROLANE, a single injection that may provide up to 6 months relief from osteoarthritis knee pain. Risks can include general knee pain and pain at the injection site. You can see full prescribing information at DUROLANE.com.